Long session this morning, so we're going to get right to it. As always, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and take a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'll tell you, I don't know about all of you, I love that pledge. Let's start with Priority Carroll with District 3. Commissioner Frazier.
Great place to start.
That was a fast pitch.
What? What? I guess just a couple things. It just seems like this happened a long time ago, but on my calendar, the Maryland Wine Festival, which was just this past Saturday and Sunday, pretty well attended. Coming back from COVID, still around and so forth, pretty well attended. I was there, and I have to say, you don't have to drink wine to enjoy the wine festival. I don't drink alcohol. I was here with friends, and we had a great time. The one bad thing about Saturday was extremely hot. I only stayed for a few hours because the heat kind of got to me. I'm not as old as Weaver, but it did get to me. And so I like to bring you into all the conversations, Commissioner Weaver. But I thought it was very well attended, a lot of great things. I also attended the Say No to Dope walk that morning. I heard there's about 300 people walking. I'm not sure of the exact number, but that's the number I heard. I know when we were walking down Main Street, there was a couple blocks of people walking. And what this walk is for is to help to support the people that are in recovery. And if you're in recovery, and I've mentioned this many times, my son is a recovering addict, you need all the support you can get. You really do. There's just so many things pointed at you every day to try to make you go back to the ways that got you into trouble, basically. So anything that I can do to support this group of recovering people is what I'll do. And so the Say No to Dope walk was there, and there was also a softball game after the walk. I didn't stay for the game. I don't know who won. Commissioner.
Lost.
Oh, okay. Sheriff's Department lost. I didn't know that. I didn't bring it up because the sheriff's sitting in the audience. Okay. I heard it was a bad call. No, I'm just kidding. But there was a softball game and so forth. So it was a really good event and very well attended. Also, just want to mention this, so we'll probably do something else for this. Carroll Community College, #1 community college, ranked #1 community college in the state of Maryland and top 10 nationwide. Kudos goes out to Carroll Community College. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boucher.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start off by thanking Commissioner Frazier for supporting that walk, and it's honestly about what his family's been through. My family's been through it as well, and that is how we get to a solution on this. So, Dennis, from my heart, thank you very much. Also, what do we have, Mr. Swam? Oh, here we go. I did a tour of Mount Airy Net. This is a nonprofit that does food and assistance distribution in the community. They said that since COVID had started, they helped over 280 families within Mount Airy. We have in this photo on the left is Sue Veras, the director of the facility, and on the right side is Laura Hagenball. She is the president of the nonprofit. They put together a board of directors, and they're relocated recently. And this is Wendy Peters. A lot of us recognize her. She was a former town council member in Mount Airy, and now she serves Governor Hogan as Special Secretary of Smart Growth. But she does this on her own time. This is not something she does for the state. This is because of her passion and love of the community. Her father owns Wagner's Butcher Shop, the facility there. So she's had a background in food, so this was right up their alley, getting food distribution to the community. And I want to sincerely thank all those people in our community. It just shows how quality our community is, that we come forward and help those in need. So thank you very much. Mr. Swam, what else do we have? Oh, I did a tour of Colonial Pipeline, which is in the Woodbine area. This operation was so impressive. On the far right side is Chip Little. He is the director of government relations for the entire corporation. This pipeline runs from Louisiana all the way up to New York, and here in Eric County is the Northeast Distribution Center. It is quite an impressive operation, And I'll state that when Mr. Little first contacted me, he just wanted to do a face-to-face meeting. And I expressed to him my concern as a commissioner representing that area is what safety mechanisms they have in place to protect their community. And I was very much impressed with the operation they have, the secured perimeter, the fire suppression systems. There's a lot of liability they have, and they do everything they can to address it. And they express that they set up partnerships with law enforcement and all the local fire departments to make sure they're all on the same page. If God willing, we want to make sure nothing happens, but if it does, that we have all the partners in place to help us out. So a special thanks to Colonial Pipeline and being good neighbors and partners in our county. So thank you very much, Mr. Swain.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Wance, District 1.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We saving Weaver till the end, huh?
I'm to the end.
Oh.
That's right.
Little wet outside. Here's my public safety announcement for today.
You had to put little in there?
No, a little wet. Got a lot of roads closed. I know that there was a challenge with the school system this morning. You know, it's the weather's very unpredictable lately. It seems like when it rains, it just doesn't. It isn't like it used to be. When it rains, it just goes now, and it all comes at one time. So,
Build an ark.
you want it? We'll talk about global warming. We'll put that on next week's agenda. I don't know.
When it
Climate.
rains, things get wet.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's that too. So anyway, our folks are out and about. Luckily, I think the scanner's been really quiet with accidents, etc. So we're thankful for that. But we've got a lot of our county roads folks out with road closures, trees down, etc. So shout out to them. They've been out a good portion of the night as a result of that. Fall Fest is supposed to start tonight in Westminster, so we'll see. I think when this gets out of here, it's supposed to be a nice weekend. So hopefully the folks here in town can get that going. That's mainly outside. So in these in the uptick of COVID that we're seeing, and we are seeing it, I had a middle school in my district that had to close for the last 2 days as a result of high numbers. So certainly we are nowhere near out of this yet. So got to continue to remind folks to continue to utilize the best practices. Attended a ton of meetings over the last week. Just a couple of them attended with some of the legislators in Annapolis, the Next Gen 911, working on that. Even though I'm not officially on the commission, it seems like my phone rings a lot. Working with Senator Kagan from Montgomery County on that, and our own delegate Susan Krebs as well. So there's some issues coming up with that, centering around 311 and the need or not, whether we need that or not. So there's going to be more to come on that. Attended a really good planning commission meeting again on Tuesday. We've got a great planning commission, and a lot of those things that we talked about on Tuesday will be coming to our level. So we'll be discussing that later, but I want to give a shout out to the volunteers that serve on that. And if you are interested in boards and commissions and serving here in the county, here's the commercial. Go on our website. We've got a lot of openings. We're always looking for good folks to serve on our boards and commissions. Also attended the Aging and Disabilities meeting yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday. And good things happening there. And of course, a lot of it centered around the fact that we had a very positive Seniors on the Go Expo. So, there's a lot going on over there. So, and then finally, I believe it's this Saturday, our Carroll County Hazmat team will be performing training at the landfill. Whenever something occurs at the landfill that you're not typically used to, it can get a little interesting up there. So you'll probably see some activity at the landfill with some emergency equipment. Just keep in mind it's training. We put a press release out about it, but it's always good to ensure that folks know that there is, and there it is right there. Look at that, boom, right there. So they'll be doing that on Saturday. So
Sunday.
or is Sunday? Saturday, Sunday.
There's training, but it's on Saturday, but it's at the Public Safety Training Center, and it's
Oh,
just
okay.
classroom. Sunday is the.
Okay, well, then
right.
we're good,
Yeah,
okay.
so.
In case you see something going on at the landfill on Sunday, don't become alarmed, so. That's all I got, Ed, this morning.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Weaver?
Just want to piggyback on Commissioner Wayans. I think there's, 32 or 34 boards and commissions that we have under the commissioners. So if people want to volunteer to serve in the county, look at the list, see where you fit in, because there's a lot of boards and commissions. On the wine festival, they did a great job. Shout out to the sheriff's department for the people on duty. They did a great job. I was there for a little bit Sunday, and those guys had everything under control, very calm.
Except for you, everything was under
Well,
control.
everything was under control, yeah. It was a very good day. Traffic, everything handled extremely well. One of the things, Seniors on the Go, the Elks have a grant for a tablet to all veterans that are in nursing homes or in care, and they are out dealing with all the, I guess, nursing homes in the area that veterans would get these tablets free to stay in communication with family and friends. So kudos to them for putting together this grant and dealing with our veterans there. At the Veterans Advisory Council, Commissioner Rothschild, Rothstein, I was there, I'm sorry.
Push-ups. Right, push-ups.
Anyway, I'm going to let him talk about the vehicles for change here a little bit. But one of the things really impressed me, $38,745,937 from compensation and pensions coming back to Carroll County to our veterans since we've had the onset of this committee. So this is a lot of money coming back to the veterans in Carroll County and into Carroll County. And lastly, I did attend the American Legion Never Forget MIA POW Candlelight Vigil, and that was really a moving experience this year. They went over and beyond, and they had a special setup for the 13 who were killed in Afghanistan, and they did a tremendous job this year. So with that, Commissioner Rothstein.
Put your hand out there. Okay, couple things. Not to be a broken record over time, COVID-19 is still with us. Continuing best practices are very, very important for our community. I don't mean to be preaching or trying to be on pulpit, but you know, you lead by example. And you know, the proven facts that I believe I've seen are dealing with the vaccines and doing everything we can do to minimize the spread of COVID-19, which is going to be here a long, long time, it sounds like, and just let's do the best we can. The other thing I've shared, social media, and we all had this conversation prior. Social media is a great venue for sharing pictures of anniversaries and birthdays and highlighting events, and also sometimes being a catalyst for discussion. But to further that discussion, where you want the county and us as commissioners to have dialogue, it's best to reach out to us directly via email or phone call. We're all, I believe, extremely receptive to that, and it allows us to do the homework needed that you deserve, the due diligence that you deserve, where we can reach out to our staff and our team to get a holistic answer for you, as opposed to going back and forth. So I applaud those that do reach out to us. It may not be the answers you want, that's okay, but it allows us to, you know, do the work necessary. And I know the sheriff, being honest, he and I talk a lot about this, you know, on things that come up on social media that may be a catalyst for an issue, and then we start working together on coming up with an answer. Let's see. Talked about lots of things and applauding again. I can't applaud too much for Citizen Services. They just do an amazing job. But I don't want to make them feel too good about everything, so since she's right here. But Celine, you and your team are just rock stars. And speaking of Rockstar, I am going to share a proud dad moment, as it's always fun to do. You know I have 2 kids, Emily and Sam. Sam is playing football, and I could share a proud moment about how well he's playing, and he is doing very well up in Pennsylvania. But the the activity I want to share, which to me is a Carroll County, why Carroll County is Carroll County. He was driving back to his apartment from practice, and a car broke down. The rim fell, and it was a flat tire. It was a softball coach. The woman was a softball coach, and he stopped by and said, "How can I help?" And the lug wrenches didn't work, and all these other coaches, all these other folks were coming by, and they didn't have the right tools available. One said, "I can go get you the right tools. It'll take about 30 minutes." And the coach, she told Sam, "Thank you so much for stopping, doing everything you can. You can leave, and I'll just wait for 30 minutes. And he looked at her and said, "There's no way I can leave. Just think what my mother and father would say if I left you right now." And he stayed, and they took care of the tire. And it's not just mother and father, but it's Carroll County, and that's what we do. And I've heard lots of those stories here in Carroll County, how people just stop and they take care of Carroll Countyans, that are in need, whether it's a car broken down or pop-up pantries or everything else. So that was just on my mind, and I just want to share that with you this morning. With that, I think we have a very long agenda, so I don't want to take any more time, and let's get right into item 1, which is getting a public comment on organization, design, and compensation study bid approval. And I know we have Roberta, Ms. Frock, our Director of Human Services, and Mr. Zaleski from Management and Budget. Roberta, did you want to start this, or do you want
And
Kim?
Maureen, so I think Maureen, if you don't mind, you usually, Maureen and Ted, and then I'll.
You're the
and-
next contestant. Come on down.
So,
I forgot, my failure to add Maureen on the list of attendees for this item, forgive me.
Good morning, Commissioners.
morning.
We are here to request your approval to award a contract for a compensation, classification, and organizational design study to Siegel Waters Consulting. Carroll County will be piggybacking the Montgomery College contract that was competitively bid and awarded to Siegel Consulting. And if you have any questions, I can hopefully answer them, but if not, I'll turn it over to Roberta and Kim and Ted if you have any
And
questions.
it will be a 2-step process to move money and then to
Right.
provide the grant if we
Right.
desire to do so. Okay, so Ted, you want to talk to us about where this money may come from?
His pockets.
Not really, but I have to anyway.
So the board may remember that staff came back in August on the 26th to discuss the possibility of a 2-pronged approach, going out to an RFP, as well as looking for a contract, competitively bid contract that we could possibly use that met our needs. We found that contract, and so we're suggesting we go down that path. And we'll tell you more about what we've done in the meantime. A lot of work has occurred between August and today. So with that, Ted?
Okay, this is going to take a little longer than the typical request for concurrence because this is far from a typical item. In fact, I'm going to say a little later, I think we're talking about a once-in-a-generation sort of opportunity here. When I go back a little bit, just to refresh you on where we've been and for others who might be listening to this, you heard presentations from Human Resources and Management and Budget about our concerns on our ability to recruit, engage, and retain employees. As business items have come to you, you've heard from other directors about their concerns about getting employees. And I think in casual conversation, just around the organization, you've heard from probably many people about concerns in different ways on this topic. And all of you, at one time or another, have shared your concerns about what is going on and what we can do about this. And when we talk about concerns, there's a lot of things in the mix, but just, again, to give people a little sense of what we're talking about. One is a lack of applications. We're posting jobs and we're just not getting many applications, sometimes no applications. Where we are getting applications, often they're not good applications. They're people who just aren't qualified for the job. Because of those things, we find ourselves reposting jobs, sometimes twice, 3 times, and that's led to a growing number of jobs that we have posted until filled now. We're not even putting a date on it, we're just saying, keep the applications coming until we find somebody. We're also finding a growing problem with people who are going through the entire process and getting to the point where we're saying, we want you to come work for Carroll County, and they're rejecting the offer. We have problems with compression. One, we talked about a lot in the budget process. The mandated changes to minimum wage are creating compression with the lower end of our pay scale, but we have compression problems in other ways. We know where we haven't given salary increases, or salary increases have been largely devoted to COLAs. Scales move, but people don't move through the scale, meaning people are getting closer and closer to each other. We have problems where sometimes, moves to supervisory positions don't look that appealing because the amount of money they're going to get for taking on the new responsibilities just doesn't seem all that attractive. And we have concern about looming retirements, and I use looming with intent. This is hanging over us. We know. You've already seen quite a few people go, and people who've been here, done it, know their stuff, and now we're picking up after them. But there's more to come. We don't know the timing, but we know people are going to be leaving.
And we lose all that institutional knowledge.
Yes. So the board has heard all this and recognized we have a problem, and you asked us what are some solutions. So as Roberta mentioned, in August, you took the first step. You approved us issuing a request for proposals, an RFP, to look for a firm that could help us with this, and also to seek out an existing competitively bid contract for the same purposes. We chose that parallel process because of time concerns. And the time concerns were driven because of your desire to have this information available in time for the next budget process. The reality of the size of this job and meeting that time frame is it's not a nice, neat fit, and we needed all the time we could get. Finding an existing contract would be a shorter process than an RFP process, meaning we have more time left to do the work. So we issued an RFP basically in case we could not find an existing contract. And with the RFP, we also needed to acknowledge the possibility that we might not get bids on the entire package. Remember, there's 3 pieces to this. And if it played out that way, that might mean we are working with multiple vendors. Now, these things are all tightly entwined. Working with different vendors on different pieces of this would not be how we want to do this, but that was a possibility. There was also the possibility that we would get no responsive bids, and you don't know until you get there. So given our circumstances, our clear preference was to find an existing contract if we could. Now, in doing that, you need to understand there's not some place we can go and just say, let's see all the existing contracts so we can work our way through them. This is more like getting to a pile of leaves and searching, try and find the leaf that you want. And we were working at that, and we had good luck, I'd say. We came across a neighbor who had something that matched up well with what we wanted to try to do. So we found that contract. We came to agreement with a vendor on how we could make that work here, which is what leads us to being here today. Now, after we found that contract, we pulled back the RFP. And we knew that these parallel processes were a less than ideal situation. We understood there was a possibility that if we found an existing contract, we could end up with an unhappy bidder who's saying, wait a second, what about us? And in fact, that has happened. We have heard from an unhappy bidder. And we regret that it played out that way, But, given the time constraints we had, we just didn't see any other path forward except to try to go at it in two different ways. So again, that brings us today and the request for concurrence. Now, using an existing competitively bid contract, we worked with the vendor to agree on a scope of work that both meets our needs, what are we trying to get out of this, and that they are saying, yes, we can get this done in the time frame that we're talking about. One thing we wanted to avoid was get an agreement with somebody who says, oh yeah, we can do that, and then find out that they couldn't. And the thing that's driving this, getting this in the budget process for you, not happening. So we've worked very hard to try and make sure we believe that what we're bringing to you is actually doable. Okay, now the study, I talked about there's three pieces. It's going to look at organizational design, it's going to look at classifications, and it's going to look at compensation. These are all necessary pieces of considering that big idea. How do we attract, engage, and retain employees? Another way to think about this, instead of in this kind of HR world talk, is we want to be looking at how we provide services. What positions do you need to provide those services? And then how do you compensate the people who are doing that work? And as we go through this process, I want to make sure you understand, we're going to be working very closely with the vendor. This is not just something they go off and do. This is going to be a lot of work for us as well. Now, part of this is just about providing stuff to them. We're going to need to give them data. We're going to need to give them our positions. We're going to need to give them history and context to help them understand who Carroll County is and how we work and how we got to where we are today. But it's also going to be about kind of evaluating where they're going, what they're finding. We can't afford to just wait to the end to say, what did you figure out, and then react to this. We want to get to the end in a position to do something about this. So we're going to be working with them along the way to try and get to an end product that is going to be useful to you and to the organization. This is a good place to stop and emphasize an important idea. I kind of said this, but I think it's so big I want to just say it clearly again. While individuals have interest in seeing their compensation go up, I don't think you'd find many people in the building who'd say, a raise, don't worry about it, I don't need that. People care, but that's not what this is about. That's not what's driving this effort. From an organization point of view, we have concerns about our ability to provide services. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to figure out how do we continue providing the services that people expect. If we get your approval today, here's what the timeline will look like. We'll have a kickoff with Siegel the first week of October. We need to get right to work on this. We don't have any time to waste here. The work will begin with the organization design part of this. This is looking at how are we structured? Are there changes we should make? How do we provide services? Can our processes be improved in some way? All of these questions will have implications for how we classify our positions and how we compensate our positions. So this needs to be leading the way. If you did this in a different way, what you could come up against is you go through and you figure out your classifications, then you change the organization, which would mean you have to reconsider the choices you already made. We don't want to do that. The classification and compensation portions of this are going to look at all of our positions, the relationships between our positions, and how our compensation compares to the market. So part of this is about how do we make sure we've got it right internally, but then it's also comparing us to what's going on around us. And I say a market comparison. Make no mistake, we are in a market. We're competing for people, and right now we're not competing well. And our competition is other local governments, but it's not just local governments. We're competing against the private sector. Now, there are some places where we will never be able to go up against the private sector for certain positions. They're just going to pay more than we're ever going to be able to consider. But there are places where this is relevant to us. And I'm not saying this is the only one, but we're watching McDonald's and Walmart's and those businesses raise their pay. That's changing our ability to attract people to some of our jobs. There's just no getting around it. We have to think about how are we going to deal with this. So we should have a market survey and an estimated budget impact of that in late March, which will be in time to consider for the budget process. It would be really good for us to have that information earlier than that, but we worked hard to make sure that it at least could be available in time to still get consideration as we go through the process. Much of the work will be done by the end of May. Again, facing the realities of the time we have, some of the work won't be done until the end of June. Ideally, we would have all this done in March or in February, but that's just not possible. So we're doing our best to work with the realities of how much time this is going to take. And then in July, we'll come to you with a series of budget transfers to take money from some holding place to get it out to all the appropriate places where it would be spent. Now, on Monday, there's a cost to this. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anybody to just say, let us help.
Charity work.
So the cost of doing this organization design, classification, and compensation work is $300,000. $300,000 is a lot of money. There's no getting around it. I believe we need to do this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about my thinking on that in just a second. Back to Commissioner Rustein's comment earlier, we will both need you to approve this contract for concurrence and to approve a transfer from the reserve for contingencies to my budget. This had to go somewhere. There's no obvious place to put it, so we're just going to put it in my budget. Don't worry, it doesn't give me any room to spend any other money that I wouldn't have spent otherwise. It just gets this study paid for. Now, I said earlier, I think we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity. I've been here for 27 years, and we have not done anything like this, not once. And I don't know when the next time is going to be. But it's not just about we haven't done this. There's a growing need for us to do it. You know, our budget and our ability to provide services have been getting squeezed for decades. We were hurt in the Great Recession, and we stabilized, but we never really recovered. You know, we've talked about some of our problems. Those problems are not going away, and in fact, they're getting worse. There's some statistics that HR shared with you previously. We're actually seeing things worse than what we told you a month ago, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. There's no reason to think things are going to get better on their own. You've already noted the concerns that are making their way to you. And I think I can say with absolute confidence, if we don't do something to change where we are, those things are still going to keep coming to you, except we're going to be dealing with them in a piecemeal way. Let's take care of this problem, then we'll take care of this problem. And part of what comes out of that is every time we make one of those moves, there are implications for other parts of the organization that aren't being considered. So we fix one problem, but maybe we create 3 other problems. This cries out, I think, for a comprehensive look and solution. Now, you know my concerns about our fiscal position. You know, I'm not the one sitting here saying, don't worry, everything's okay. And you also hear me all the time saying, we need to be careful. We need to think about the implications of what we're doing here. So when I come saying that we need to spend money on this survey, and then the money that's going to come to do something about what would come out of it, I'm not coming to this casually. I'm coming to you because I deeply believe we have to do something. And if we want to be able to keep providing the levels of service, the mix of services, and the levels of service that we have out there, if we want to keep doing that, I believe we are going to have to do something, or you're going to be faced with choices to say, what do we stop doing? So that's where we've been, where we are, and a little bit about where we're heading. We can take questions from you now if you have any. After questions, or if there are none, then we'd be looking for 2 actions, one for concurrence on this contract and one to approve the transfer from reserve for contingencies to management and budget administration.
Okay. Ted, thank you, and well packaged in the presentation. Are there any comments or questions?
Director Zaleski, I want the public to know, when you come before us and make these statements, how true and serious you are. I've never heard you hyperbole anything. You're not a man of small talk, and it's important for the public to understand the seriousness of this when our Director of Budget comes before us and makes this recommendation to us. And I appreciate the work that you and your staff have done. Director Frott, Administrator Winham, you have done a tremendous job to get this thing moving so fast. I am thoroughly impressed that this is before us this fast. That is incredible. And I want the public to know that the $300,000 in question to be allocated is not that big in comparison to the size of the organization that we're in charge of running here. It's going to take a lot of work, not only from the consultant, but all your staffs to make this happen. So I'm 100% behind this, and I'm sincerely and humbly grateful that you've done this so fast. I'm looking forward to a successful outcome with the work and product you produce.
Any other comments? You mentioned, Ted, about needing the resources to working with the vendors. You believe the staff has the capacity and the resources needed or necessary?
It will be a stress,
Right,
but we've been talking a lot about how do we make this work.
right.
And this comes up in a lot of ways, but, one thing, we were actually pushing on the vendor to tell us as early as possible, what are you going to need, what are you going to be looking for
Right.
from us? And in fact, even got to the point where we said, if you're not ready to give us the whole list, give us a partial list so that we can get to work putting those things together. So anything we can get done today takes it off the table tomorrow and frees us up to handle something else. We have a lot of stuff going on. The pressures on HR right now are significant. We look at the work that's going on with Vista, dealing with COVID problems, dealing with all these open positions. There's not spare time, but we're trying to figure out how to make it happen, and we'll do what we need to do.
Will there be tools in place to allow us, the Board of Commissioners, to have the insight maybe in a bi-monthly or monthly, just a pulse check on the activity happening? Because from 1 October to 1 March, we're talking 6 months, say 1 June or July, we're only talking 8-9 months before a lot of decisions are to be, considered and or made. So making them then is going to be very difficult, keeping us apprised in a bi-monthly. Is that something that can be worked into the discussion we have with the vendor?
No. Yes, we had not actually talked about that, but I think that's good. Yes, we can arrange for some sort of periodic update on what's going on. In the early months, it's going to be a lot about process. We're not going to have much in the way of answers. And in fact, we're talking about in late March getting that budget estimate from the compensation survey. That might be the first kind of really hard information to offer you. But yeah, we can talk about how to make some sort of updates.
I think having clear milestones for us is going to be important because, for us to having, the opportunity of making decisions, it could be shell shock, at the end of the day. So if we understand the buildup and understand the milestones and decisions, points that have been made along the way, that would be, and also with that said, the stressors, I'm going to be personally, and I think the rest of us, relying on Roberta to share with us the stressors that it is bringing onto our staff, because we have a lot of work that is not going to stop while this is still taking place, and that's concerning.
I agree, Ted. We, over the last 7 years, I see places we need to adjust in the way we do business and looking at our county. However, I guess COVID has really emphasized that to us, and I think we're seeing the need for this. And I'm gonna say at this point, it's time we actually look at the whole package, look how we're put together, look where we need help, where we don't need help, and we can't do it internally. There's too many people, I think, tied into their own area and doing things for the right reasons, but we need a comprehensive look from the outside, look from the satellite down, and analyze where we are and what we're doing. And we're doing well, but a lot of people are sewing it together and patching up pieces here and there. It's time to look at this whole package,
Yeah.
and do it right.
Yeah, go ahead,
The only
please.
couple concerns that I have is the one that you brought up, making sure that we have the staff to be able to go
Right.
through this study. Number two, for me, bigger's not always better. So I'm a little bit challenged by the fact, where are these folks out of, and what experience do they have working with county government? I see that we've piggybacked on Montgomery College, and that sends up a flag for me, unfortunately, out of the gate, because, again, bigger's not better. Stronger, making sure that we've got the right people in the right places is better for me. But if a firm comes in and says, well, you gotta add 15 people here and 30 people here, I'm gonna be hard pressed to find that to be relevant to Carroll County's fingerprint. So, back to my question, where are these folks from, and what have they done with, have they done anything with local county?
They have extensive experience. They work all over the country. This contract happened to be Montgomery College, but the scope of work that they were asking for matches up to us. That they're providing education and we're providing other services really didn't get in the way. We've been working with people in their Washington, D.C. office, but they have people all over the country. They currently have something like 100 things like this going on right now. So this is what they do. We're very comfortable with their ability and knowledge and experience. On the bigger is not better. Clearly there's no goal just to add people for the sake of adding people. I'd be surprised if some recommendations don't emerge, because I'm going to say I think we know, but I feel confident in my own thinking, at least, that we know there are places in the organization that are understaffed. And if nothing else, they've been understaffed since we went through the Great Recession, because we got rid of positions, didn't get rid of services, and haven't corrected that. But it's not just that. Over this last decade, we've added services. We're doing more than we were doing 10 years ago. Some of it by choice, some of it because some other level of government told us we needed to. And for the most part, that hasn't come with new positions.
Right.
It's come with find a way to do it. So decisions on what we do with what we find out are still well ahead of us.
Right.
And I don't want to presume what we're going to do when we get there.
Right.
But I'd be really surprised if we don't see recommendations. And I don't know how it's play out, but I don't think it's just going to be broad. The county needs X number of positions. I think we're going to be talking about, if these are the services you want to offer over here, you're probably 3 people short. If you need more over here, you're a person short. And I know, just looking at my own area, I can't argue that we have enough people to do what we're supposed to do. I know we don't. I've not gone looking for positions because I think there are other places in the organization that are even under greater stress than my department is. But that doesn't mean it's not there.
Well, that's my only concern, and I hope that we dive deep to ensure that doesn't occur, because in my experiences over the last 7 years in this job, watching other jurisdictions, they'll march 18 people into a room that we do with 2. Oh, but we do it better.
Yep.
That's always the key for me. I love the Mako thing, where there'll be 12 people walk in that are government liaisons. I don't know what they do, but they're all there taking notes for one county. But yet, there's two of us in the room, and we do it better. So I don't want to lose that either. So that will be something that I'll be watching as we move through that, and at the very end, of course, because, again, for me, it's just not about adding people. It might be about changing the way in which we do it, or somebody should be doing this that they're not doing. So I'm going to be watching that greatly, because I do not want to just say, okay, we're growing government because we have to. So, and then the last thing that I have is I want to make sure that the RFP process was done correctly, because I don't want to get into a jam there. We got the email from, all of us got that, and we've had a log jam or two before with an issue or so. So just want to make sure that the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed when we had that option of, oh, by the way, and you explained it, but I just want to make sure that indeed it was done correctly.
Yeah, we've had Maureen involved all the way through this.
And I'll tell you, no, I was just going to say, my experience with RFP, one, I've been on the government side putting out RFPs, but I've also been on the contracting side, working to answer an RFP, and sometimes RFPs are canceled. And what stinks is when a business like mine puts money and resources into it and saying, well, wait a second, and some companies put, 5-6 figures into answering, and then they cancel the RFP. It happens, especially if there's a better method of, I won't say expediting, but getting the needs met. And I think I applaud you collectively for getting the Montgomery College, to be able to piggyback on. I mean, that saves us probably, I don't know, weeks. I haven't looked at it in depth, but I would imagine anywhere from a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So that's really do applaud you on doing that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if that's the way that, I'm glad it happened that way,
Yeah.
because
I do want to answer your question. Siegel did do Frederick County and Frederick County Public Schools. So they have done something, similar to us.
Okay.
And yes, we did everything within our rights for the
Yeah.
RFP.
Okay.
Putting it out and retracting it also.
It was a bit of a joke for the last couple of weeks. Those of us who have been working to make this happen, we would get to a point where we say, oh, geez, better make sure this is okay with procurement, and we call up to Maureen, can you come downstairs for a few minutes? And it happened with some frequency.
Yes, they had a hotline to my phone.
You had
sure
your
they did.
sneakers on.
Yes, we
Well-
spent a lot of time together.
I applaud the effort to do this in a timely fashion, because I'm going to be maybe a little bit brutally selfish here. We've been debating this, 3 of us have been debating this for 7 years. 2 came into the picture 2 years ago. I don't want to be on the outside looking in. I want to be here when this occurs. So I applaud you for the timing.
Yep, that's our goal.
Commissioner Wance, if I may, I want to express my empathy and sincerity and understanding what you just made as points, because we're going to potentially get some feedback from the public on this. So taking your position has been very good to inform the public that we're looking at this in a lot of different ways and understanding. And I want the public to know that we've just been through the census. Our population is up, and just like myself as a businessman, if I have more customers, I need more personnel to address their needs. And as this county has grown, we have seen more and more demands placed upon us. And the public needs to know this isn't just about inflating a bureaucracy. I know working people out there who have their CDLs that potentially want to work for the county, and then they want to find out that a truck driver is making $14 an hour. They don't want to come to work for us. I'm all about helping the working man, but I'll be damned if someone's going to be able to raise their family on $14 an hour. So we definitely need to be competitive, and it's been expressed by Mr. Zaleski that not only we compete with other public sectors, but there's a lot of private corporations out there who are using air employees as potentially a training ground to get experience, and then they can offer more money. And it's tough to maintain quality personnel when you do that. So this is a great idea, and I'm very grateful to Commissioner Lance keeping an eye out and make sure that we stay on the rails, so to speak. So thank you.
I just wanted to say that it's about time for this study. Since I've been here, we've had this problem. We've all talked about it in the past. We put out requests for people, you know, for personnel and so forth. And like you've already mentioned, either we get nobody that's interested in the job, or someone goes through the process and then we find out, well, this is the actual pay. No, thank you. It's hampering us. It really is. We need to study, and it might. And you know, the good thing is that we're the final arbitrators on what happens when a study comes back. And like Commissioner Wan said, I like to be here when it happens. So I'm very happy that this is going to be done in a quick but efficient fashion. So I do appreciate that.
So it sounds like we do not want any dust on this as a result, and we want to have this as an action, not as a, you know, a bookshelf item that's going to be put up there for another 10 years, but it's going to be a results-driven, where we are going to work through it. So I do appreciate that as well.
There's going to be so much going on, the dust is going to be swirling in the air, not settling anywhere.
And to be clear, we
I'm
need
going to come by your office and see that.
we need to be prepared because we're probably going to have to make some
We will.
more challenging decisions than we have in the past
Yep.
as a result of what we get from
Right.
these folks as well.
Yes.
So hang on to your hats, gentlemen.
Okay, with all that said, do we have any motions that we want to?
I will move the Board of Commissioners approve operating budget resolution 0-22.06 to transfer $300,000 from the reserve for contingency to management and budget administration to complete the study.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion on this? Well presented, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now I'll move the Board of County Commissioners approve a compensation classification organizational design study in the amount of $300,000 with Siegel Waters Consulting.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing here none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much for all the work you guys put into this on such a tight time frame. I am thoroughly impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you. One little tidbit of information, as we were waiting for a conference call meeting, I was talking to a couple of the principals with Siegel, and one of them is a Carroll County resident. So, to your point about Carroll County, so that's
That'll
good.
I wonder whose constituent he is.
Certainly.
Commissioner Rothstein's.
All right.
It's a bedroom.
He can lean
Okay,
on-
let's talk about noise ordinance. Mr. Burke, did you want to start this off?
Sure, and the sheriff is also here to answer
Well,
any
we cannot,
questions and make sure
we cannot,
Who?
dismiss that the sheriff is here. We see the sheriff being here.
Good morning, Commissioners. You would ask for a briefing on, at least one of you asked for a briefing on the current state of the noise ordinance. And by way of background, in 1974, the state of Maryland, with great fanfare, adopted a noise control law and put it in the annotated code of Maryland. And it was going to be policed and enforced by the Maryland Department of the Environment. And a scant 30 years later, the same state legislature defunded the Maryland Department of Environment's Noise Control Division and graciously handed off that responsibility to local governments. Most Maryland jurisdictions, or many at the time, simply decided they would enforce the current COMAR standards, which are similar to what you have in your ordinance. And some counties and towns opted to adopt their own noise control ordinance, as Carroll County did that. In 2005, there was 2004, 2005, a committee was put together. Sheriff Dragoning was heavily involved, and they put together a noise control ordinance, which at that time, the noisiest offenders were these all-terrain vehicles. We would get a lot of phone calls, and the sheriff would get a lot of calls on noisy ATVs, in residential areas or riding close to people's residences. At that time, the sheriff assumed the mantle of enforcing the ordinance, and they were supplied calibrated professional noise control meters that had to meet certain standards to be able to be used by law enforcement in the enforcement of this ordinance. Lately, the enforcement has not been happening. The meters have, I guess, long expired or not been calibrated. The sheriff doesn't have the equipment to be able to do the enforcement. So there, right now, we don't have the capacity to enforce the decibel levels in the noise control ordinance. It's a perfectly good ordinance. It just needs someone to enforce it.
So is it because of the equipment that we're not enforcing it?
Yeah, Sheriff, why don't you come up with the table, make it easier?
And to be clear, but to setting the groundwork here, you know, you mentioned about the ATVs, and that's what it was 5-6 years ago.
There's more to it.
And now it's certainly graduated into the events venue
Right.
issue, which is occurring across the whole state. You know, if you have a barn and you're not making money with corn anymore, you're going to turn your barn into a wedding venue. And guess what? You're magically making $10,000 a weekend now. So the problem is those venues are in the middle of places, specifically residential.
That's where we've seen the increase in the noise complaints, not
Right.
necessarily the ATVs,
Right.
which we've always handled and gone out and mitigated those issues. We're now starting to see venues, and believe it or not, some churches with bands that are playing and,
Right.
and the bass that's reverberating through different areas. When I first took office, those noise meters existed. Looked at it a little bit closer, come to find out that the calibration on them was expired. So we were handing out meters that were not calibrated. So really, you couldn't enforce based on what the meter was saying. But my understanding is that there was never any civil citations written regardless of whether they were calibrated or not.
Which begs the question too, you know, what would you give even if you went out to a place and said, well, you're 2 decibels over what you should be?
I knew you'd ask that. There's a civil process to writing a citation, and actually Tim's office, I believe, would handle that in court. If we were to issue a citation, it wouldn't go to the state's attorney's office. But so to give you an example, we have a venue that is loud and noisy, and we can give an example. And I go out and I write a civil citation for the noise and hand them the civil citation of $50, $100, whatever it is. They just keep playing the rest of the night. It's like me giving a ticket to someone for speeding and saying, you can speed the rest of the day for the next 24 hours. It just simply can't happen. Do we close the venue down? So it becomes a little bit more of a burden than just writing a civil citation. And my office has never written one of those. And we've had a number of complaints regarding noise, but we've always been able to go in and successfully work with venues, citizens. Again, and it's no secret that the Island Green is one we've been working
Right.
very closely with, and Mark's been with you on.
Mark's been outstanding out there. And, you know, the other problem that you identified the other day, Mark, when you and I were out there, is everybody's got these lovely little applications on their, these apps on their phones now that you can get free. You know, go to the App Store, got a noise ordinance thing. Well, how good are they?
Well, I'm no better than the ones I've got that are uncalibrated, so, I mean.
I know,
so-
but you physically rode around out there, Mark, and I don't want to dwell on this particular venue, because I think we're in a good place there.
We are in a good place.
So
yeah.
that's good. So maybe that's the other thing. To get that intervention in there and work with folks, and maybe it's a tweak of moving the speakers from one side to the other. Maybe that's the answer. But the problem here is, and the reason I wanted to bring this up in the first place, was not to do something with the decibel level like that stupid Facebook said, but to give some kind of teeth to an ordinance. We've got an ordinance, but yet
So.
we can't do anything with the ordinance. The ordinance says what it says, and when I have 3 neighbors call me because the wedding was loud on Sunday, and they say, well, you've got a noise ordinance. Okay,
I'm
we
here to
do.
tell you, I'm not going and shutting people's weddings down. And those things are not going to happen as long as I'm the sheriff. We'll go out and mitigate the issue. I have had, and I'll use Commissioner Boucher's district, I have had, we had an incident down there several years ago where that individual just simply didn't care what we had to say, didn't care what the decibel reading was. We eventually arrested him. And so we will bring in then the criminal law into you know, disturbing an individual's peace or causing a disturbance like that. And that's exactly what we ended up having to do. We arrested him. It stopped. That has no longer been an issue. That's the first time in years, I've been doing this 32, 33 years, that I've had to go to that extent. And so we can bring the criminal law into the process. And we've got another one, I think, Ed, in your area that we've been talking to the state's attorney about. But we go, as soon as I get these, I assign, either go to Captain DeBoard or one of my lieutenants go down and figure out what is the issue, what's going on. Is it just a neighbor dispute where we've got to go in and talk to these folks? And in Ed's area right now, that's exactly what's going on. DJ Tan in your area and the Farm Museum, and working with people that are there creating noise, understanding that that's what's going to happen. But we've been extremely successful without having to write citations, without having to lock people up except for one incident, with going in and using good tact with dealing with the issue.
Figures it was District 4.
It was yours, yeah.
Well, but
yeah.
again, like the other topic, taking away resources to do that. That's my biggest concern, is how much resources is it taking from you, to go through this process?
It's what you got to do. That's just all there is to it. It's what you got to. It's part of what we're asked to do, is go in and handle those issues, so that it doesn't get to a point where people are starting to go at one another. And it really helps that we get involved that quickly, because they know that the police are involved and we have record of it. And I don't think we've had anything get to a point where it's gotten violent per se.
Do you have many issues for these venues where you get called 1 week and then you go out and then whatever you do to mitigate it, and then the following week or 2 weeks
do.
later you get the same call from the
We
same
do.
venue and all?
I have one in.
Then what?
I think in
What's your next step from that?
criminal prosecution. I mean, the bottom line is that if you're doing stuff at ODark 30 and you're disturbing people's peace, and it's not a venue and you're not abiding by any sort of ordinance, then we'll go in and warn you a couple of times. But at some point, with the one that we're talking about, I think it's either in Dick or Steve's district. I think it's yours,
in
Dick.
Mr. Williams.
At some point, then I'll send Captain DeBoard or one of my commanders up and say, you either stop or we're going to charge you and arrest you. And that usually stops it rather quickly.
I would think so.
But we give some latitude when it gets to that point. This is a religious institution that we're trying to give some latitude to understanding what's going on with that particular religion. They just have they go outside and do things at an odd hour, and so and it's disturbing an entire area.
It's in Weaver's
It
district.
has to be, yeah. And I'm not talking about a grain hauler or a combine.
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking
know.
about.
So then that begs the question, because I had a citizen reach out and say, well, why do you have an ordinance at all then? What good is the ordinance if you're merely sending law enforcement out to intervene and get to a good conclusion? Why have an ordinance?
Well, because I think there's some validity to the decibel readings and the things that are there that we can direct people to and stand behind the ordinance. I mean, I could certainly write civil citations for this, but
Well, I'm not suggesting that.
yeah,
I'm
but I
just-
think with the ordinance, so the reason we have it is, again, those venues, that they can have some guidance and a guideline there. If you decide to strengthen it and say you're accountable for putting up noise meters around your location and putting it on the internet so people can see that there's different things that they can do. I think people by and large that have venues want to be good neighbors, and they don't want to disturb people around them. They just want to know what are the confines, what rules do they fall under. And if we have to, then we could say, look, we worked with you on the civil side. You don't seem to be getting the message, and so we'll take it to another level on the criminal side. But I think you got to have something in place that talks about it.
Okay.
If you need new decibel meters to
So the
enforce,
decibel,
'cause-
so there's, and I get that a lot. So they're not cheap. They're expensive. You have to have people trained every year on them. You have to have them calibrated every year. They are more burdensome than, and I have people that were trained, but they've since been promoted, moved to in different areas of the organization that they wouldn't then have to continue that training. And I'm going to say $25,000 a year is what it would cost me. I think I looked at that several years ago, and really the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze. It just seemed like a little bit of a waste of money to have to spend on that annually, when I know that we can get out there and mitigate it. And we actually went to Island Green with the meters that we have, and albeit they're not calibrated, but we were able to still get readings so that we could work off of those readings, and they were pretty accurate, I believe, with what they were getting. So it's not that I think in order to enforce and for Tim to go to a court and say, we wrote a civil citation, like a radar unit, you have to show that it was calibrated with regularity, and it's just a lot of money to do it.
Actually, you look at noise, and noise is a symptom of the problem. I mean, this is only happening in certain areas. And if you look at the areas where they are, it's ag remainders that have a list of about 50 different uses on it that are allowed in as remainders to an area. And noise actually becomes whatever the association or whatever that group can use becomes the problem. I mean, for the one up you were talking about in Wansis District, that is a church, which is allowed on there, but the noise gets out of hand. Others, Island Green, we've allowed ordinance uses, conditional use, but the noise gets out of hand. And most of them come back to conditional uses on those properties. Now, first of all, I think we need to review the conditional uses we allow on from the zoning, and that's very simple for us to do. Secondly, as conditional use, the property owner should be the one held accountable for this, not us, not the sheriff. If they have venues that are going to have bands, have things like that, they're required to monitor their noise at their property line that's on them, the decibel meters they use, and they have to keep a record of the date, time, and level during that event. So when it gets to the point the sheriff gets a call on this and goes out, wow, here they are, you need to give us your record of your date, time, and decibel level of these events. Not us, it's on the event owner. And he must be able to provide that. Now, if it gets too many complaints or whatever, we go back, their conditional use can be revoked. We can take it back to, our zoning administrator can revoke that conditional use, and they can appeal it to the BZA at that point to be reviewed. But this can be put back onto the person that has that conditional use. It's their responsibility to keep this under level. Now, the liquor board has that ability too, I think already. They can, am I right, Tim, on that?
Yes, they have a local rule that authorizes them to, or prohibits establishments from having amplified music that disturbs the peace of the neighborhood.
So these things could be in place, and we don't have to be the enforcer as such on this.
But that would mean that we would have to go over the ordinance to make sure that that language
Correct.
was in there, because that's not in there right now.
Correct.
And that's the first I've heard about the liquor board having, see, this is, this ordinance is, it's not very, I don't think it's very strong, because there's too many open-ended.
Yeah, but remember, you're
areas.
talking about a number of different issues that occur with noise, and what Commissioner Weaver's talking about is establishments that fall under the control of the liquor board where a liquor license is supplied.
Which is most of them, though, Jim.
Which is a lot of them, you're right.
Yeah.
The ones that we're talking about.
Right.
The four-wheelers, the people doing construction,
okay,
those sort of
yeah.
things, we handle that, go
Right,
in,
that's
and that's the end. These venues, I think, have an obligation to mitigate noise and make sure that they fall under what Commissioner Weaver's
So,
talking
so
about.
getting them to put skin in the game. is
Right,
basically
but,
what
and
you're
I'm not
saying.
here to diss the venues either, because some of them are doing really well, they're bringing a lot of folks into the county, pro-business, whatever, I'm good, that's good.
They get it, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the best one we work with is over at the Farm Museum with DJ Tan. I mean, he's excellent. Every time we come with an issue, they're willing to work with us and say, you're right, let's look at it, and put the money into it. They're making good money from it. They put money into it to make sure that everybody around them is satisfied.
In the wedding venues, you don't want to shut them down, just say, you need to monitor the level your band's playing. That's your responsibility.
So-
Then
so-
it goes away.
And I'm
Right,
fine
but-
with that, but shouldn't the ordinance say that?
Yeah, there has to be something that says if you've gone out several times to the same venue for the same complaint, which would be noise, that there has to be some repercussion that happens to the venue owner,
Then the
because.
BZA can revoke their
Okay, but that's
conditional
one
use.
part of it, but then,
I think it has to be more immediate than that, to be honest with you. Because
it
if
is.
I'm living in that neighborhood and every weekend I have to call the sheriff's department because the noise is shaking my windows or whatever, and you go out every weekend, there has to be some way to say, okay, you're as, because we've been out 3 times, that's it. Your temporary, permit is pulled until it gets investigated or something like that sort, to stop it from happening.
But-
If there's
but
no
you're-
teeth
but-
in it, then,
Yeah.
I mean, you keep going out, or not you personally, but, you know, you people keep going out there and telling these people that it's too loud, and neighbors are complaining, and they say, okay, they might even turn it down for that, but the next weekend or 2 weekends later, you're out there again.
A lot of times we get that, and there's times when I'll use a juvenile party or something like that. We'll shut it down, tell them that's it, shut it down and get out of here. We know the type of venue we're walking into, the establishment, the residents, those sort of things, and we're very understanding that this is not right. Shut it down and get out of there. Or it's a venue like an Island Green or the Farm Museum, and they tend to work with us a little bit closer. But if it gets to the point where the teeth need to be used, and like I said, we have the one in Ed's district, that if it gets to a point, we've already consulted the state's attorney, we'll file charges against that individual, and that'll stop that particular problem. I like the approach of dealing with citizens that are having their loud parties and those sort of things. Yes, we need to deal with that. The approach for establishments, I like what Commissioner Weaver has brought up, where the zoning looks at it, and other people have teeth that they can pull licenses, and educating my staff on those things when an ordinance is, if an ordinance is put in
Well,
place.
that puts
addresses it.
the burden on the
Right,
people.
I understand.
Not on us,
I'm
not
just
on the
looking at
sheriff.
the people live in a neighborhood that might have a wedding venue in there that's,
Yeah.
whatever, say it's supposed to stop at 10 o'clock, they go to 10:30 every time. And then, if it happens continuously, something, I mean, they should be shut down.
Yeah.
Or geez,
A
it should be
one-time
done.
wedding, you're probably never gonna deal with.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about recurring, things that
But
recur.
I
If it
think,
happens
Commissioner,
once-
we will shut that venue down if it's at a very strange hour that they're out there. If it's 11, 12 o'clock at night and they're still
Right.
playing Led Zeppelin music, then my deputies are gonna, that's it, it's done, and shut everybody down.
I'd like that.
I'm sure he will. In your district, Erica.
Thought it was Journey.
Showing
Well,
your
Journey
age.
should be shut down, just.
Well, I really like,
That just,
I really like the idea that both the sheriff and Commissioner Weaver brought up about putting some of the onus back on the venue for them to self-monitor, maybe for them to make the investment to monitor themselves. And all I ask too, in the language of the ordinance for the wedding venues, prohibit them from playing the electric slide.
chicken dance.
No chicken dance.
So I think do you go back and maybe Tim and myself and somebody from the board, maybe Commissioner Weaver, do we look at it and say, okay, let's look at the ordinance and present it at a later date
Well, that's.
with
where I'm going.
some updates?
All these things are good, but the bottom line, and why I wanted it brought up, is because the ordinance does not say these things. So we're gonna have to make sure that it does.
Bring it together.
And
Well-
I'm not so sure that it gives you clear direction. I don't think it says the sheriff's department will go out once, twice, oh, and by the way, strike 3.
And that's a discretionary thing on us when it comes to
But I
that.
think
But
it
someone
should
could
be.
challenge that. If I had a venue and I said, well, wait a minute, Carroll County, your ordinance doesn't say that. I bet I could beat it.
It
because
costs you a
it
couple
does-
bucks to beat it, but you're right, you probably could. And
Right,
we don't
that-
want,
that
but
was
we
my
never want to
point.
get to that point.
That was my
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It seems not to have enough teeth.
But-
That's all.
It does authorize the county attorney's office to seek an injunction against a frequent violator of the noise
Okay.
ordinance.
Oh, all right,
And
what
the
does
violator
frequent-
may also be required to submit a plan that, that is designed to achieve compliance with the code and approval of that plan by the county, and then the plans get filed with the sheriff's office, so they're aware of what they should be doing.
So
when
we're
they go
like
out.
doing that right now,
Yeah.
really,
Okay.
with,
Right.
you know, some-
But what does frequent violator mean? I think it just has to be spelled out a little bit more. Because if I'm running a wedding venue and I would like to keep running it, I'm looking at that ordinance, okay, if you come out once or twice, but the third time, I'm gonna make sure there's no third time. Because
I
I'm gonna
understand
keep
that, but you
running
may
that.
have people in your community that just simply don't want that venue there, and they're just gonna,
Well, I understand that,
each
but.
time the police leave, they're gonna pick up the phone, and we're gonna just keep coming back for no apparent reason, but
Right,
they just don't
believe
like
I've
the
gotten
venue
that.
there. Yeah.
And the
I've gotten
problem with
that,
it,
But the fact is, that we have to all be reasonable about that.
Sure.
So if there's if your deputy goes out and it's not as, not that loud, you know, whatever, then, okay, it's not the third time because the complaint was not correct. And that's at your discretion to think that, but if it's the third time and it says, yeah, it's way over what it should be, then it's, you know, I think it has to be more specific, because if I'm running the wedding venue, I'm not gonna allow it to happen 3 times because I wanna keep my business running.
I wouldn't take that responsibility or authority away from the sheriff.
No, I'm not trying to take anything away from him.
It's in,
But the discretion, no, you're taking the discretion away.
What do you,
Because if you say 2, 3 times, 4 to whatever number, I mean,
that,
it should be, to me,
Okay.
discretionary up to.
You can put a
the
number on it,
sheriff's
we can
department.
always say that that's not, that
Right.
we're, you know, we're gonna continue
mean,
to work through it. I simply like the fact that when we issue a permit to someone for whatever zoning, that it spells out, here's your obligations when
Yeah.
it comes to noise in your establishment, whether it's an outside barn wedding venue,
Yep.
a golf place, or a church. This is what your responsibility is when it comes to noise,
Right.
and we're gonna issue the permit based on that.
Commissioner Wentz, do you recall when we met with Island Greens that they didn't understand, we had to communicate them to what their requirements were, and then they met their requirements? And I think that's one of the onus falls on county government and ourselves to educate these venue operators when they're going in and requesting a site plan of what their requirements are, and that should eliminate some of the confusion as well.
Yeah, that discretion has to happen there, because I'm sure you hit some the first time, hey, no, that's
And
it.
how many
Others-
times were you out there, Cap?
For noise violations?
Yeah.
One time for a documented noise violation.
Okay. but
And the
then-
rest came through complaints through,
Okay.
and then we just exercised our judgment, used our discretion, and
Okay.
eliminated the problem.
so when they get the conditional permit to have whatever, they don't get a list of the requirements that from the county about how things should be
Don't know.
handled?
I don't know.
I don't think that they.
If you want to do a run through town, yeah, you get a list of requirements and you got to have this many police officers, those sort of
Right.
things. But if you want to have a band at a venue, I don't know that there's any specifics that are handed to you when you.
I don't
you
think
get
there
the
is.
conditional.
That I know of a winery that had the same issue.
Yeah.
That's in your district. And they took it upon themselves, when they did learn about the decibel level, because they had no idea. They only knew about it because there was a complaint. So they took it upon themselves, went out and put like 3 meters around the perimeter of their facility, hooked it up to their laptop, and they can consistently
Yeah.
take their decibel levels.
So it wasn't that difficult for them to do it?
No.
No,
it
we
was
find
pretty
that
easy.
more than anything, that there's compliance with.
Right.
With when we come out.
Right, but they have to know what they have to comply with.
My point is, they didn't know.
Right.
They didn't know
That's a
until
good
they,
point.
and that's your point,
Yes, sir.
Right.
that they didn't know.
They didn't know until we intervened, explained to them, and they could take the necessary actions to eliminate the problem.
But with the liquor license like Tim's talking about, I mean, that's really that's the moneymaker for them. I mean, with the liquor license and understanding what the noise ordinances are and through zoning, I think that if we look at what Commissioner Weaver spoke about, then maybe we can strengthen it or
I like that idea.
at least update it.
I think it needs to have maybe that language inserted in the best manner that it can. That probably means bringing in the zoning, the zoning administrator and the associated folks.
First of all, we have to
But-
look at the conditional uses and make,
Right.
look at that list
Mhm.
and narrow it down to where
Right.
it's gonna be,
So that was my method here.
Mhm.
Just, it has teeth, but yet I think there's a couple teeth that have been fractured there a little bit or something. There's a couple teeth missing.
Little cavities in the teeth.
Perhaps,
Okay.
yes,
I mean, they need to be filled,
maybe.
and we have the good lawyer to fill them.
And the problem with any of these noise ordinances is it can't be completely subjective. You can't just say, all right, no loud music, because one person's loud music could be another person's, ooh, I love,
Right, I'm
I
half
love that
deaf, so it
stuff.
bothers me. to
Are
hear
there,
it.
are there hours on our noise ordinance?
Yes, there's hours and
Okay.
there's specific noise levels that you can.
I've got it on my desk and I forgot to bring it over here, and I've read it
And
18
and
times,
most of
but-
these venues, the one we keep talking about, they're done at the well
all right.
before that hour, and
Well,
so.
Not necessarily.
They're all the way up till 10
Uh,
o'clock.
Captain, would you like to elaborate on that? Because one of the neighbors, told me like 4 weeks ago, encore at 10:15, encore. So, that's not necessarily true, Jim.
Wow, maybe one encore. I mean, can we put that in the ordinance?
Only one on,
But, you know, it has to be spelled out too. Decibel level doesn't mean you can't hear it. It just means you're not shaking things off the wall in the house, but it still may be.
And you think that's, we literally had in his district, dogs that were running and peeing in corners because a mile away, because the noise was absolutely just scaring everybody in the whole area. And that's one where we just didn't play around, and it was ridiculous.
Right.
That's rare. That's one every 10 years. That's weird that happens.
My dad, did we have any complaints about the Union Mills Civil War reenactors? I know that Commissioner Wance heard them, and all right, good. It's also, we need to exempt the Civil War reenactors.
No,
That
I
is
mean,
a
that's
great
usually,
venue.
those
Plus,
are
it's
usually during the day and
Yeah.
not
Right.
causing
It's not-
anybody.
Yeah, that's not a
Many
thing.
issues.
It's when you get up to the 8:30, 9 o'clock area that.
Yeah, I
people
mean,
start-
Steve's in bed at 8, so he gets a little. 8:30, I'll give you 8:30.
Thank you.
One encore.
I'll respond to that question, thank you.
The other night I watched the Twilight Zone episode, and this guy loved loud stuff, and the irony at the end of the show, he wound up being totally deaf.
Yeah.
He paid the price for
Yeah,
it.
well, see, there's that,
Yeah.
right? Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
a little bit.
So we'll work
Well-
with Tim and just look at the ordinance and maybe come back to you with something that.
Yeah.
So Tim, do you have enough direction?
Yes, I think the zoning administrator was dragged in as well. By
Well, and-
Commissioner Weaver's
I would love to
comments.
sit in this,
And you have
Well,
Commissioner Weaver as an ex officio into this.
Thank you.
well, and the question about whether it's really proper to be in the noise ordinance or in the zoning
Yeah,
ordinance, I think, yeah. And the board, as you know, revised the commercial industrial text for the zoning code recently, about to do it with the residential zoning code, and the next step is the agricultural and conservation codes. And so I don't know whether it might be premature to just try to pull this out for this particular, or maybe do it at a comprehensive level when we do the whole ag.
now and then bring it up when it comes into zoning, but
Yeah.
if review of that, I think will spell out a lot of what
Right.
solves the problem here, not
I think so
and
too.
what we review.
Yeah, I think we've had enough complaints on this that it should be looked at now, and we don't want to wait on it.
I agree.
It's got to roll, and I also want to make sure that staff knows that when someone does get a permit, that a copy of that is given as a result of the permit process. They should have that, because I don't think that they do. In the current manner in which it is, I mean, knowing that it's going to get tweaked, of course, but I think they need to have a copy of that in their hand when they get that permit.
And the
I
other
think
thing
that's-
is, once we strengthen this and you guys have agreed to it, we can certainly go on an educational,
Right.
tour and making sure that people that we frequently work with understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Mike McMullen through the chamber, we can certainly get stuff out to him. So,
Yeah, good stuff.
This is
So-
no way to shut people down.
No,
No.
Keep
no,
them
no.
accountable for what they're doing.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
But as I told the neighbors up in the outskirts of the valley, it's always funny when I say that.
Is there such
we've
thing?
got to
Right.
represent everybody. It's not just about the venue, it's about the folks that live there as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you've got to respect their ability to live there, and a lot of those folks were there before Island Green decided to
Oh, yeah.
to have Red Dirt Road come in on Saturday
Yeah.
night, right?
Okay,
And a big thank you to you, Captain, for your intervention too, because you did an awesome job up there. You really did, and kind of got those folks back to where they need to be. And it was, a lot of it was communication. But you did an awesome job, so kudos to you.
and also because you can see him eye to eye.
yeah.
We talked about and he didn't give me a ticket when I came rolling in there on two wheels the other day when.
I got my money on him, he's meaner.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Captain,
Good
thanks for
discussion.
coming out with the sheriff.
Okay, let's move on to admissions and amusement tax discussion. Mr. Burke, you are going to lead us in this. I know we also have a public comment, right? So do we want public comment first, or do you want to lead us into this and then go into public comment?
I'll just lead in briefly.
Okay.
Under the tax general article, there is what is referred to as an admissions and amusement tax imposed upon a lot of activities in the county. Under the state law, you're allowed to grant exemptions to certain entities at your discretion. And it was requested by an outside agency that you grant an exemption for any fundraising activities of volunteer fire companies, gross receipts, and we also had a suggestion from one of the delegates that you also exempt agritourism from the imposition of the admissions and amusement tax. So I have prepared for your consideration and discussion a resolution that would exempt agritourism and the all fundraising activities of volunteer fire companies from this admissions and amusement tax.
And the
And it
exemption.
is retroactive from January 1, 2019,
Right.
Yes,
So-
correct.
effective date.
And what kind of events are we talking about with agritourism?
Hay rides.
Hay rides,
Corn
maybe
mazes.
a petting zoo or something on the spot, and I don't think anybody's ever paid it anywhere, I know of, I'm sure they know to pay it. And
Yeah, I don't know to do either. I
Okay,
know you
I
get a
just-
anywhere I think where you buy a ticket,
So for some, okay, I got you, okay.
right?
Could be
That's the way it
pumpkin
is.
patch or
Yep.
corn maze.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you pay for a corn maze, that would be
All right.
considered agritourism.
Yeah, the farm, not the farm museum, the Ag Center has their corn maze.
So for the good of the, for the good of those listening, those in the room, as we move forward, if we are to agree to this resolution, it's going to state that the Board of County Commissioners, Carroll County, that no admissions and amusement tax shall be levied or collected, one, upon any gross receipts derived from all fundraising activities of volunteer fire companies in Carroll County, and two, upon any admission and amusement charge for any activities related to agricultural tourism. This exemption shall apply to any such charge imposed on these activities after January 1st, 2019. Okay. Is there any further discussion from us? Sir, you want to comment?
Mr. Cohn?
Sure, please come up to the mic, state your name. I'd say social security, no, I'm kidding. Name and tell us what's on your mind.
Frank and Cyril.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As a business owner that's been doing business in Carroll County for decades, we run the movie theater. We employ a lot of...
I apologize, your name?
Oh, good point. Scott Cohen.
Thank you.
As a third-generation family business owner who has employed many first employees and everything else, we came back into Carroll County. We did a lot of work at the Westminster Mall. We survived COVID, barely, but anytime we can look for any reductions in admission taxes greatly does it. Yes, Maryland does allow 10%. You are one of the only two counties that I'm aware of that does hit us for 10%. We are paying real estate tax, we pay sales tax. It just, times are tough on everybody. I heard the plight of, we have trouble getting employees also. And money is just disappearing. So anything that can be done, a side thing on it is keep the 10% admission tax, rebate back 5%, and that goes toward improvements to the building, facility, employees, just looking for what we can get. And like I said, we did survive pandemic. A lot of our employees, we kept them on, they were laid off, but we kept them on insurance. We made sure they were correct. We made sure the building was correct. We started back with anything we could do to keep our doors open when the state allowed us. It's just been a devastating time. So crumbs add up.
Absolutely, appreciate it. I do have a question. Did you take advantage of all grants and opportunities over the past year and a half? One, that the county has provided, or two, the state? Were you
Everything,
eligible?
yes, everything that we found out for, we applied for on a county level, a state level, and a federal level. So yes, we tried. I hope our staff found all of them. If you know of one we missed, we'd be happy to reapply. And every bit of money we got, small, medium, or large, helped. Because, you know, it took a lot of money from us to make it through those 18 months or 15 months, because a lot of businesses our size didn't. And I know one in Hagerstown went out, and one in Chestertown went out, and some in Baltimore City. It just, you know, it's been a tough industry.
Is the tax levied on you as a business, or is it levied on the moviegoer itself?
Yes. Well,
No.
because let's be candid, if you buy a gallon of gas for $1, but buried in that cost is 25 cents of of taxes,
Right.
it's passed on to the consumer. So what happens is our admission prices does calculate that, where the admission price might really be $10.38, but we charge you $11. So, and also the film companies share in that with us, because that gets, you know, deducted, where if the 5%, as I had said, if we kept it and you rebated it, somebody else helps us pay for it, and we get money for renovations, repairs, and like I said, my time's up, but we
No,
put a lot in.
Your time's not up.
Your
Chris,
time's
take,
not up.
Chris, take the clock away,
Right.
and,
I mean, as you know,
I
the
appreciate
county had, your theater was, I can't help the physical plan. It is what it is, but we came in at a time and we modernized it. We put in the recliners that people loved. We cleaned it up as best that, you know, she could be. We realized the mall is what it is. We're working through that. Hopefully one day it'll have a bright shining star around us. And like I said, we do, you know, a lot of people, it's their first jobs, a lot of college students, and, you know, all the employees we do have.
What
yeah,
do you-
this was new news to
at-
me.
At the end of the day, do you pay it at the end of your fiscal year, or do you pay it?
It might be quarterly. I mean, I was actually going to mention that. We do pay the admission tax. We've been paying it forever.
Okay.
And we also have a sales tax, I think, on a lot of our
Right.
concession items that we do sell. But yeah,
So you pay it, you think you pay it quarterly?
I think we pay it quarterly, but I
Okay. I
wasn't
was just
prepared with that.
curious.
And we do our own, we tell you how much admission there was, and then we, you know, send checks in. Every so often, different municipalities to come back to see if we're doing what we should. I don't believe we've ever missed on an audit.
So Carroll County is one of only 2 counties in Maryland that charges 10%, or is it one of 2 counties in Maryland that charges an admissions tax?
Neither.
I think it's,
thought it's what-
I can only answer about Carroll County and Baltimore County in that comment. They are the 2 counties we operate theaters in. We do also operate one in Southern Maryland. I don't know off the top of my head if they even have an admission tax. But 10% is this, you know, you're hitting the cap.
But, well, yeah, but, okay, is Baltimore County saying 10%?
Baltimore County is 10%, yes.
I think I appreciate the time, and as you can tell, it's new news for us. I think we need to do some homework, our due diligence, in looking into this. You know, you're bringing up something that obviously you're educating us on, and giving us the opportunity to do the due diligence and work necessary is going to be important. I don't think it should slow down this resolution.
Right.
But we can definitely look at yours, and which is going to end up happening, I believe, is looking at other businesses that may be in the same kind of domain as yours.
It is, and I appreciate that. And then I realized, I didn't think it would happen today.
Yeah.
Didn't know the knowledge. We use every opportunity to try to educate and inform. You know, but thank you very much.
No,
Thanks for
absolutely.
bringing it to our attention.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, I'd
Anything
like
else?
to move the board adopt a resolution.
Thank you.
Preventing volunteer fire companies from any admissions or amusement charges for any event held in Carroll County outside municipality and activities related to ag tourism.
I don't see that in the motion.
Yeah, where'd that in the back?
That should have been in there, Commissioner Weaver.
I know.
Picked up on that.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Third.
Good job, Weaver.
Okay, you gave him special guidance. So we have a motion in a couple seconds, and with that said, any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, 5-0. Sir, make sure we have your contact information.
We do.
Okay, and Roberta will follow up, we'll follow up appropriately.
I have it.
Thank you.
You gave.
Okay, Ms. Celine, let's talk about approving to hire a part-time contractual local care team coordinator for fiscal year 22. I like
Good
that
morning.
county match.
See, you build her up, now she's asking for money.
I know.
I'm not asking for money. We don't need
Oh.
any county match. We've
Oh.
gotten the award. So I'm Celine Steckel, the Director of Citizen Services, and I'm joined today by Gabby Zelaya. She's our local management board manager. We don't love that title, but that's what it is. So we're here today to request approval to hire, as you stated, a part-time contractual local care team coordinator for fiscal year 22. We were here before you in March requesting approval to submit the application for the local management board's community partnership agreement. Excuse me. In that agreement, it provided us with also an opportunity to request competitive funding to continue our local care team operations. The local care team falls under our local management board and is instrumental to provide a forum for families and children with intensive needs to receive assistance and resources and for interagency problem solving for individual child, family, and systemic needs. And this platform is a required mandate and it's legislated. And so there is extremely spelled out guidance on who is required to be on the local care team as far as different agencies throughout our county, different government entities, therapy agencies, and the hospital staff, as well as the requirements of the coordinator who we would hire for local care team, needing to be a licensed clinician. So there are a lot of specificities to this position. Because of that, we're opting to use an RFP process to hire this individual. It's only going to be 10 to 15 hours per week for the work that they do to host and coordinate these local care teams. But we did receive an award from the Community Partnership Agreement of $45,656 for the local care team operations. The way that breaks down is this part-time position would be funded with salary and fringe for $23,400 of that, while Gabby's position as a local management board manager who also supports the local care team would be provided $20,083 of salary and fringe. And then also a laptop would be purchased of $2,173 for a total of $45,656. Gabby does have a few statistics about local care team that I did want to share with you today, just to give you an update on kind of what we do and the work that is provided there.
So good morning, commissioners. Thank you.
Good morning.
Both local management boards and local care teams are in Maryland statute, as Celine had said. We're in Title 8 of the Human Services article. If you were to take a look at that, it specifies, again, as Celine had said, who's supposed to be part of it, what we do, other specificities like that. In 2018, local management boards became the administrative home for local care teams. And since 2018, here in Carroll County, we've reviewed an average of 34 cases per year. So these are referrals we get from the community or self-referrals from families who say, my family or my child has intensive needs, a variety of things that they might need. And we come together as a group of agencies to address that. In fiscal year 2020, our peak was 47 cases reviewed, just as an idea. Throughout COVID, obviously we were impacted. Our cases reviewed were impacted. We saw about 25 in fiscal year 21, but it is picking back up. The coordinator's general obligations would include coordinating and facilitating 1 to 2 hour-long meetings, which could occur weekly. That's a requirement of the state. The coordinator would also ensure adequate service provision and follow-up for youth and families. They would also participate in quarterly meetings with the state, and they are required to provide several trainings to the community throughout the year. So I have more details, but unless you had anything to add, we'll open it up for questions.
Would this individual be directly working for us, or would they be working for a contractor and coming to us? How will this work out?
They would work directly for us.
Okay.
Currently, the the process would be that they would have to bid and show their own liability coverage and things like that, just like any contractor would have. So they have to go through that full process, but they would be working directly for Carroll County.
It seems, I was wondering how difficult it would be, because I see you need a clinical and special education background, a master's degree, and finding someone that could work 10 or 15 hours a week. It seems very difficult for you to pull this off. You apprehensive about being able to do this, or you feel confident?
We have someone that we have been in dialogue with that
Okay, good.
and that is why we wanted to put it out as an RFP, because the price point, we would not have to use an RFP process because it's under $25,000.
Okay.
But we wanted to put it out so it was publicly advertised, so we could direct people to our website to market that.
Thanks for clarifying that, because we see over and over again how difficult it is. And with these parameters, I thought you got a tough road to hoe on this one, but you already have something lined up, so you'll be just fine.
Typically, I've seen not necessarily and masters, but and/or masters or and masters or experience of 6 years, whatever it may be. But this is requiring a master's.
This is a state requirement, correct?
It is a state requirement. Interesting.
In the past, the state would provide waivers
Yeah.
if we asked for them. We did ask previously for a waiver, and they denied it.
Okay.
So we had a waiver with a position that was held by a staff before for the local care team coordinator, but they're looking to really see that you've done your due diligence to hire someone that has these credentials.
Keep the bar high. I appreciate that. And Gabby, welcome. I haven't had the opportunity, so I know you're relatively new to the team last month or two, right?
I've been with Citizen Services for, I think, going on 3 years almost, but I'm
But in
very
this
new
role,
to this position.
right.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. Any other comments? I like the county match as well. So
We knew you would.
I make the motion, the Board of Commissioners approve the hire of a part-time contractual local care team coordinator for FY '22.
So,
I got a motion second. Any discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Okay, now let's talk about renewal of Geographic Information Systems, GIS, software maintenance and support. Mr. Ripper?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Go for it.
The Office of Procurement and Cooperation with Technology Services requests your approval to award the purchase of the renewal of ESRI software maintenance to ESRI Inc. in the amount of $41,794.52. The amount is within the adopted FY22 budget and no additional funds will be necessary.
Morning, Commissioners. We actually pronounce ESRI as ESRI. It is the software package that all of the different agencies use for the purposes of GIS. And we have about 135 users, over 10 or so different types of agencies who use this package on a daily basis for mapping and planning purposes. So it's also used by public safety and 911 to determine routes for fire trucks, ambulances from the fire departments to locations.
I'm impressed with how much this stuff gets utilized. I've gone out DPW and looked at them redoing the culverts, and I had no idea they're using GPS to locate them, set up the charts and graphs. I mean, it's thoroughly impressive. All that data is being pulled in and utilized by us. This is a nice system. I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase for renewal. Is it ESRI? Software and Maintenance, Inc., in the amount of $41,794.52. Sorry.
I got a motion and a second, and a second. I apologize. I've asked this often of many of these type of renewals. Have we gone for multi-year renewals?
We have, and you're going to find with this one and the next one, because of the economy and the way things that are, they're more than willing to sell you multiple years, but that's at that same price. There are no discounts or anything that are being.
And then I see that the municipalities are also using this product.
Yes, Commissioners.
Okay.
A couple of them, not all 8 of them, but some of them are.
Okay. That's very nice that we're supporting them that way. That's good. Okay. Motion second's been done. Any other conversation, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Eli, what's next? Purchase of Dell Latitude rugged tablets for the Sheriff's Department.
The Office of Procurement and Cooperation with Technology Services requests your approval to award the purchase of 20 Latitude rugged lap tablets to Dell Computer Corporation in the amount of $60,877.80. This purchase is being made through the NASPO contract MNWNC-108. The purchase amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds will be necessary.
And Commissioners, these are the equipment that we order all of the time. The reason before you here today is because of the amount of money. We place orders for PCs, but a lot of times it's not over the $25,000, so we don't need to come before you. I do need you to know, or want you to know, that we are still experiencing a significant lag time in getting equipment in, even though it appears COVID slowed down a little bit maybe, or whatever, the manufacturing industry for technology has not caught up. A lot of it has to do with them and their ability to be able to get the components that they need to make the electronic portion of the equipment.
Do we buy so many of these each year? Because 20 for the entire sheriff's department doesn't seem to be a lot.
Oh, well, let me explain a little bit more, Commissioner. These 20 are for 20 new vehicles that the sheriff's department's
Oh,
getting.
okay. Okay.
Seems like a really good price.
Yeah. I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase of 20 Latitude rugged tablets to Dell Computer Corporation, amount of $60,877.80.
Got a motion second, any discussion? Hearing seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Andy, come on up and let's talk about placement of water services, water service laterals on Snowden's Run Road.
Commissioner, I believe the change order for North Pump Station.
I apologize. I'm ahead of myself. North Pump Station in Hampstead. Apologize. Change.
Sounds like exciting stuff.
All right.
So you'll be talking about the other one after, so. Okay, Carrie, you want to start or Andy?
Sure, thank you. The Office of Procurement in cooperation with the Bureau of Utilities requests the Board of Commissioners approval of a change order to Century Engineering in the amount of $10,800 for additional engineering services related to the construction of the North Pumping Station in Hampstead. The cost of this proposal is within the adopted budget and capital project. No additional funding will be necessary.
And gentlemen, first and foremost, the construction of the new pump station in Hampstead is on schedule to be fully operational by January of next year. So we're very happy with that. This change order request is for the consultant and is to cover costs associated with the review of contractor product submittals and requests for information. The original consulting contract allowed time and funding for the review of approximately 60 product submittals, and to date there have been approximately 90 of these submittals. Some of these are because the specified products either are not available or would not be available in acceptable time parameters for construction. That falls in line with what Mark just said a few minutes ago as well. Others will require to be submitted multiple times following review and comment. Secondly, the original contract allowed for 8 staff days for review of requests for information. The consultant is now up to 9 full days of staff review time. And there are several more months of construction still ahead of us. The majority of these additional RFIs are because of product shortages and the review of alternate products. The consultant is obviously working on behalf of the county, and these reviews are essential to ensure a high-quality final product. Any questions for me?
We've had a lot of change orders on this project. It's a major reason.
The North Pump Station, this is our second change order. It's the
Okay.
first major change order with respect to the products and their availability. The first change order was for the transition of the site from the Main Street location to the IDA property.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I move the Board of Commissioners approve a change order to Century Engineering Incorporated in the amount of $10,800.00. Wow, for additional engineering services related to the construction of the North Pump Station in Hampstead.
Second.
I got a motion second. Any discussion?
I want to add real quickly, this week, someone said to me, they said, you got one more year as commissioner, you should have your name on something in Carroll County to remember you. I think it's going to be on a wastewater sewage treatment plant.
You will.
I'm honored.
We'll see that October the 5th, I believe.
Okay. Any more discussion of value? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
As long as my name's on, I'm all about it.
I suppose. Gary, now let's talk about the replacement of water service laterals of Snowden Run Road.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with Bureau of Utilities, request your approval to award a contract for the replacement of water service laterals on Snowden's Run Road in the Freedom District to Mid-Atlantic Utilities in the amount of $65,625. This award was made via a competitively bid term contract. We solicited 4 term contract vendors that we currently have, 2 of which responded with quotes, and Mid-Atlantic Utilities came back with the lowest price.
Gentlemen, as you are aware, that over the past several months and years, I have been before you to present projects for looping improvements, fire hydrants, valve and valve bolt replacements, and water meter vault installations for the board for approval. This is for a whole new category for us. It's the planned and proactive replacement of aged water service laterals by roadway or by neighborhood. Water service laterals are the copper lines that connect the water mains to the meter vaults, and they're basically this type of pipe. And as they age, pinholes form in them just by sheer use and so forth. Sometimes they're up against rocks and they rub a little bit and cause the pinholes. But the older portion of Snowden's Run Road that we're working on with this project was built in the 1970s and has had a recent history of water service lateral breaks. So we're going to be proactive and replace the remaining 25 properties along this roadway, and basically use this as a test project and see how the process works for us. As with the majority of our projects, this work was made available to our current term contractors. As shown on the briefing paper, 2 bids were received, and we are very happy with the low bid, and it does present a good value for the scope of work involved.
Did HTI just not want the work? I mean, did they bid themselves out of it, or?
I'm not certain. Things are picking up in the construction world, so there may be that factor involved.
Okay.
So is this going to be an ongoing thing now, replacing the laterals?
We'll see how this
Is it what it
goes.
is?
I believe that it will be. We have many residential areas that were built in the late 60s and early 70s, and we are having a history of water service lateral issues.
What type of pipe are we using to replace laterals with now? Copper? Is that, I guess that's the best around for
Yes,
right
it is.
now?
Yes, it is. And just to let you know, our attempt will be to pull the new copper line through from the meter vault and not open cut unless we
Right.
actually have to. So if we do have to open cut, we will, obviously.
And that's so you don't disturb properties. Correct. I mean, yeah.
I love your visual.
I'm sorry?
I love your
Yes,
visual.
very good. What is the existing material?
Copper.
And we're replacing with copper.
Yes.
Okay.
We have no lead pipes in the county as far as I'm aware.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move the Board of Commissioners award a contract for the replacement of water service laterals on Snowden Run Road to Mid-Atlantic Utilities Incorporated in the amount of $65,625.00.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's talk about the Hampstead wastewater treatment plant ENR upgrade project.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Utilities, requests the Board of Commissioners approval of miscellaneous items change order to Conawago Enterprises in the overall amount of $71,706.15 for various construction improvements related to the Hampstead wastewater treatment plant ENR upgrade project. The cost of these improvements is within the adopted budget and capital project, and no additional funding will be necessary.
Gentlemen, after 2.5 years, the construction activity at the plant is essentially complete, and you will see that firsthand on October the 5th during the ribbon cutting ceremony. This change order is for a group of miscellaneous items regarding safety and treatment process improvements to the overall project. These include ductwork and ventilation improvements, handrail additions, grading and drainage improvements, and issues related to the sludge processing of the old plant. Some of these needs were identified by my staff, and some were identified by the engineer and contractor. Because of the critical time path constraints, the overall completion date mandated by the Maryland Department of the Environment, and the cost savings associated with having the work completed while the contractor was on task, I instructed the contractor to move forward with these changes as they became known over the past several months. Each of these individual items, and there's 11 in total, they were all relatively minor amounts, but combined, they came to the $71,000 figure. And just to let you know, that amount is 0.4% of the overall cost of the construction project. So it appears to be a large sum of money, but in respect to the overall project, these are relatively minor improvements that were identified as safety needs and process control needs.
I like seeing the safety being addressed, because I know in my industry, a lot of people fall with lack of proper railing, and especially the ventilation. I am well aware of how dangerous methane gas is, and if we don't have proper ventilation in a facility like this, it can lead to death. I've seen cases where people have gone in and storm drains and moved around debris, and methane has grown in the bottom of a trench. And just to release that methane will kill someone in the ditch, and other people go down after them, they die as well. So the ventilation is paramount. So thanks for addressing that.
The challenge that my staff and the contractor had with this project, it was essentially a rehabilitation project. So we kept the old plant running and in place, and we modified the components in place as part of this construction project. And the engineer did a fantastic job with his plans, but he simply could not identify all the shortcomings with the existing plant. So the majority of these are just items that they just did not pick up on through no fault of their own.
It's very good being proactive, because Commissioner Wance has seen this industrial problems that we're addressing this before we actually have an incident. So thank you.
I'll move that Board of Commissioners approve a change order to Conewago Industries Incorporated in the overall amount $71,706.15 for various construction improvements related to the Hampstead wastewater treatment plant upgrade project.
Second.
Okay, got a motion second. Any further discussion on this? In here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Kara, let's talk about purchase of a 2022 F-250 Super Cab truck.
The Office of Procurement and Cooperation with the Bureau of Fleet Management Warehouse Operations requests your approval to award the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 Super Cab truck to Apple Ford in the amount of $50,746.52. The purchase is being made through a Baltimore County Contract 0004504 that was competitively bid. The amount is within the adopted FY22 budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
Gentlemen, this purchase is a replacement for vehicle number 0624, which is a 2010 Ford F-150 with 150,000 miles on it. The existing vehicle is being upgraded to a larger size to accommodate a utility body style and for anticipated future towing needs. Following this, vehicle number 0624 will then be used as the Bureau of Utilities spare vehicle at Fleet. Within the past year, the Bureau's previous spare was red flagged and removed from service because of age and major repair issues. We have been able to work around this temporarily because of staff shortages, but when fully staffed, it is essential for us to have a spare vehicle at Fleet to reduce downtime to a minimum.
Are vehicles assigned to individuals?
The majority of our vehicles are. Yeah, each of my field staff members each of my Hodges field staff members have a vehicle assigned to them full time. They are on call on a rotating basis.
I do say it's good, something like that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, especially if I was driving a F-150 that's 11 years old.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it's pretty nice.
The user of this will be extremely happy.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. 250? Oh, my son's got 150, so it's new and yeah. Nice.
And just to let you know, we are transitioning from the toolbox liftgate style storage areas to the utility style. It just makes the heavy tools much easier to access,
Yeah.
less wear and tear on the staff members' backs and so forth.
The lift gate is a very nice feature, because so often people get hurt pulling stuff out of a truck. So that's a nice feature for the safety of employees.
Yep. Okay. I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners award the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 Super Cab truck to Apple Ford in the amount of $50,746.52.
Second.
I got a motion and second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about
Gentlemen,
potentially purchasing a John Deere 5090M utility tractor. Okay, Eli, start us off.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Fleet Management Warehouse Operations, requests your approval to purchase one John Deere 5090M utility tractor from Deere and Company in the amount of $101,069.76. This purchase is being made through a Sourcewell contract 110719-JDC that was competitively bid. This amount is within the adopted FY22 budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
Good morning. If you still consider it morning. So this tractor is used by the Department of Roads for roadside mowing. It will be equipped with a rear and a side flail mower. The model it would be replacing is a 2008 John Deere tractor with about 5,000 hours on it. That tractor will be sent to auction.
Time for new.
What was the price of that one in 2018?
I don't know, but to give you an idea of how much the prices have gone up pre-COVID, the same tractor we were looking at about 85,000. So now we're looking at 100,000 for the.
That's every.
Would it be reasonable to hold off on purchasing this for like 6 months to see if prices come down?
Not necessarily, because it's 6 to 8 months out until we even get this one.
Most new equipment is 6 to 8, usually a year, I can tell you now.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see the price of anything going down as well.
Not for a while.
I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase of one John Deere 5090M utility tractor to John Deere and Company in the amount of $101,069.76.
I got a motion, I got a second. One question, that's 5,000 hours. Is that a lot of hours? Is that,
The type of mowing that these tractors do,
right?
Yeah, we tend to see them being rotated out around that amount of hours. So
You see them rotate around 5,000 hours?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And the way this one sits right now, it actually needs a clutch replacement. So that sort of influenced us that this one needs to get.
It's going to get expensive after 5,000.
Okay, got it.
5,000's a lot. When I had my lawn business, I switched them out at about 2.
Okay.
Because,
Wow.
they
But you
take a
got to
beating.
keep in mind, these are digital hours.
Right.
Time that key turns on, his
Mhm.
hours are
Yeah.
measured on these. Older vehicles, they had to be at 1,800 RPMs to start registering. So there is a difference in the hours.
It's
Did you just call Commissioner Lance old? Okay. Okay, I got a motion second. Any other discussion?
How many of these do we have?
We have 10 mowers total.
Do we?
Yes.
Okay.
Of this caliber?
Yes.
Okay.
Real quickly, Mr. Oliver, when that piece of equipment comes in, let me know. I want to go out and get a photo of the equipment and members of the crew that utilize that equipment. I like to give those guys and ladies any recognition they deserve for this. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Don't sit in it, then you'll be spoiled. Won't want to go to anything else.
Okay. Any further discussion? Commissioner Fisher, you want to talk about this?
No, it's all good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now let's talk about purchasing a Ford 450 regular cab 4x2. Eli, what are we talking about?
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with Bureau of Fleet Management Warehouse Operations, request your approval to purchase one 2022 Ford F450 regular cab 4x2 with XL trim from Apple Ford in the amount of $64,163.25. This purchase is being made through a Baltimore contract 0004504 that was competitively bid. The amount is within the adopted FY22 budget, and no additional funds will be necessary.
The commissioners, this truck, it would be fitted with a plumber's body, which is a utility body that is enclosed. So it's a very large body sitting on the chassis of a truck or van. It is used by the sign crew in the Department of Roads. It will be replacing a 2011 Chevy Express 3500 van, and that van will be sent to auction.
How comes you're not getting 4-wheel drive on this one?
This one won't be using any type of snow removal.
Okay.
So 2-wheel drive is all that is needed.
Okay.
And with all that weight on the rear, they tend not to have any issues where they would need 4-wheel drive.
Okay.
And just to point out, so we are looking to move from a 3500 series van to the F450. So we're increasing the size of the truck. These utility bodies are very heavy. We've noticed the maintenances. We have 2 of these vans right now, the 3500 vans, and it's a lot of stress on the suspension. We're seeing them in the shop quite often to get this work done. They don't handle very well. So when you're going down the road, especially at high speeds, they start to sway. You get some wobbles in the front. So we believe that the F450 is going to be a much better suited truck for this large of a plumber's body.
Is this a tandem rear truck?
No, it's single axle dual wheel.
Dual wheel. Yeah, tandem rear. Four rear tires.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there you go. Dual wheels. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I got you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else?
It-
Do I hear a motion on this one?
Move the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase of one 2022 F-450 regular cab 4x2 with XL trim from Apple Ford in the amount of $64,163.25.
Second.
How long
Okay.
before you get this?
This one we're looking at 6 to 8 months also.
Wow.
Ford put it 200 to 250 days. So yeah, everything is about 6 to 8 months out. Doesn't matter if it's equipment, cars,
Yeah,
trucks.
everything.
Yeah.
I ordered a new dining room set, 6 months to get a dining room set.
I got one I could say. Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, but then it's gonna take you 6 months to get.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't care about
exactly.
getting, I don't need a new
can
one.
sell it.
I'm ready to sell it now. So, that's very nice. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go away, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, let's
Go away.
talk about, Delta Airport Consultants Task Order Number 2 for professional services for the final design and bidding for the relocation of Meadow Branch Road.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. I'm here this morning to request your approval to sign Delta Airport Consultants Task Order Number 2 in the amount of $252,000 for professional services for the final design and bidding for the relocation of Meadow Branch Road outside the future runway object-free area. Preliminary design is about 90% complete. This is the final design phase of the project before we begin construction on the actual relocation of Meadow Branch Road. We have received a grant from the FAA for $260,000, which includes $26,000 in airport relief funds. This covers the entire cost of the task order, and no county funds are required for this phase of design.
Price is right.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, Board of County Commissioners approve Delta Airport Consultants Task Order Number 2 for Meadow Branch Road Relocation Professional Services.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you,
4-0.
Commissioners.
Thank you very much. I see Miss Wanda in the back, so you can come up in a second, or you can come up now. Just want to see if there's any open admin. You have anything, Roberta, further? I don't
I don't know if
believe
there's-
so. Chris, there's no callers, correct?
We have no public commenters on the line.
Correct.
Good. One thing I have, and Tim, you can help me out with this, need to amend the contract of sale to K&P. We're buying the property there by the landfill, and all it's doing is changing what we pay when. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it's just changing the dollar amount that we pay at settlement and pay 2 more times, on October 1st and January 5th.
So
But the
it's,
dollar amount's the exact same.
but it's not, yeah, so it's not changing the specifications on the purchase or how much we're purchasing. It's just,
Scheduling.
it's the
Just the-
scheduling issue only. So,
Just a scheduling issue only, correct?
Okay.
Same amount of money is at stake.
so we can handle this in open admin, not needing another open item. Okay.
So it's just a,
What
so
else?
I'll be asking you to sign that contract that indicates the change.
Okay,
And we're hoping to settle within the next couple of days on that.
that sounds great. Thank you very much. North Carroll High School, are we going to be talking, I know I have a meeting later, but are we talking at all about that in session anytime or no?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No? Okay. I was just curious. Anything on anybody's mind for open admin? We do have the Board of Education meeting at 3:30. There's about 5 things on the agenda, so it looks relatively light, but those are pretty meaty items that could be on the agenda that can last some good time. It will be virtual. We will be here at the dais doing that. And the Board of Education will be in their building. From this, I was going to say, from my view, I saw the shiny back head of somebody. Oh, it's Commissioner Wance. I just saw the shine. Had to.
Did you fill out your comment card?
So, anything, open admin? Commissioner Wance?
Yes, sir.
Open admin? You want to bring up anything?
No, I don't think so. Just kudos. I'm sorry I stepped away, but I've got issues in my district again with roads that have washed out.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we're back at Trump Road again. Yeah, because you're right there with me on that one. It washed out.
It yet, though, right?
Huh?
We didn't fix it before, so we haven't been doing it.
Well, it washed out again overnight.
Sure.
So we're on that one. So I was just,
much more rain in that end of the county?
apparently,
I mean, it seems like all your damage is up there.
I know, it's
Almost-
always, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
almost
you
all
know.
these roads flooded are
So
still out.
there's a lot of issues going on, but the sun's coming out, so that'll
Yeah.
help a little bit. But Trump's out again.
Yeah.
So we're back up there again. So anyway, no, I don't have anything. Just
Nicodemus has a tree in it, and there's problems. I mean, there's a lot of roads. We're getting the updates.
yeah.
Really impressed with, three things. One, the communications on the activity that's happening on the roads, the work that our crews are doing, and especially the partnership that they're doing it with BGE and others. So appreciate the patience of our community as this is all being done, but very impressed with the hard work that they're doing right now on the roads, because obviously we got a lot of water out there.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Mr. Cook in here, as busy as he is today.
So, anything else, open admin? Okay, we will be going into close for land acquisition, but before that, let's go through our agendas. Let me see. Agenda begins with an A. Monday, September 27th, I will be attending a reception with the Fort Meade Alliance over at the National Business Park in Anne Arundel County. Tuesday, we have nothing. Wednesday, there'll be the fall symposium for MACO, all things ARPA, and Commissioner Wance will be attending in person.
Yeah,
down there?
that's in person.
Okay. Are we bringing any staff down there for that or no? We are. So there'll be some staff attending there as well.
Yeah, let me know who's going. Okay, just, I'll drive. I mean, it's, I'll have to let them know that I can, so.
I will be participating. It is virtual at the Governor's Workforce Development Board at 3:30 on Wednesday at 6 p.m. There's a planning commission that'll be virtual. Commissioner Wance will be attending. Commissioner Boucher will be participating in the Carroll County Public Library event with the author Nicholas Sparks over at Westminster High School.
I'm probably going to be at that too.
Good.
Okay. The planning and zoning, by the way, the agenda for that is the introduction of ag rezoning. So the residential will be up in front of us shortly.
Right.
Because it's at our level now. So that's just what that is Wednesday night. An introduction is to the process again for that. So
I apologize. We talked earlier. I thought you wanted to bring up during open admin.
Oh, yeah.
The value of planning and zoning.
Well,
Meeting that happened.
yeah. So there was a lot of discussion about the redoing our residential text amendments or whatever, or text. And yeah, so it was very well done. The dialogue and the debates and the discussion were at the highest level that I've ever seen, and a lot of great ideas came out of that. So I'm going to suggest when it gets to our level, in the interest of making sure that not just hearing from me because I've been sitting on there, but to hear from some of the folks that maybe are on P&Z, that they would be allowed to come in front of us just to give some of their thoughts as to how they got to where they got. Not in the, I mean, we certainly can change those things now because it's at our level, but I think it would be important for us to hear how they got to where they got with some of those decisions. And many of them were not easy. You know, as soon as you say cluster, 87 alarms and 40,000 flags go off. So it's intense. So I'm not suggesting a work session, but I would like to say when it comes on our agenda that we allow for a couple of folks to be in here with us so that we can have that back and forth dialogue, because it's been very good. And as a result of that, there was some question from the public about ethics. I'm not sure where it came from or why, but I, as we said during that meeting, and I want the public to know, however many are left, there's probably not many, but you know, everything we do here is so transparent that it's just amazing. And for someone to question that there are things going on because of what they do, I find very sad. So do we have folks that serve on our boards and commissions that have other jobs? Yes. Do we recognize that? Yes. Is there something going on as a result of that? No. So I was taken aback by someone in the southern part of the county that suggested that goes on here. And I guess in today's world where everybody's mad and frustrated with everybody, that is kind of upticking a little bit. But I took offense to it. I said a few things down there to make sure that folks did not know that was going on. And again, emphasize the fact that we do everything here in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And we're actually now interviewing for those two very important boards, PZ and BZ, and get the right people on there, because it's the future of the county. So that's all I wanted to say.
A couple things. One is to clarify, when you said down there, you meaning downstairs?
Downstairs.
In the.
Yeah, in
the
03,
conference room.
right. Yeah.
Not down there in South County.
No, down here,
right.
there,
Yeah,
here, there,
in-
here,
in-
there.
In the meeting.
Right.
And, you know, the comment about ethics, there is a way to address it. And we have tools in place in our county to address questions of ethics. And as always, we are always available for anybody within the community. And if there is a question of ethics, we will ensure that it goes in the right place. It does not belong in social media. It doesn't get us anywhere. All it does is build hate. And that's not what Carroll County is about. So
Right.
I appreciate you bringing it up, but I don't want to dissuade somebody. If they believe there's an ethical issue, then bring it up. Just
Yeah.
do it in the appropriate manner.
I mean, everybody's
So,
carrying
yeah.
87
Yep.
of these things on their persons. I mean, come on.
So,
All you got to do is
yeah.
call. And by the way, our director of planning, Linda Eisenberg, did an excellent job
Yep.
of explaining how the process works and answered a lot of those questions. So I don't know. I get frustrated with people that keep shooting darts and have no idea where they're shooting them. They're only shooting them because they heard somebody who heard somebody who said to somebody that heard from somebody that was what was going on. I mean, come on.
I got you. And
Yeah.
I agree. I apologize.
You said exactly
Yeah,
what I was going
I
to say.
just, there's a process and
Yeah.
a lot of good feedback. I did watch the planning and zoning, most of it, not all of it. So I do look forward to us getting into the dialogue of the residential text. And I agree, having the gentleman or all of them
Yeah.
available for us, I think is a great idea.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I knew there was something you wanted.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Open
Thanks
avenue.
for reminding me.
Okay, so Commissioner Boucher, Westminster High School, along with Commissioner Wance, on Thursday, September 30th. We have Final approval on our pension plan changes. Approval for a contract to purchase equipment at the sheriff's office. Discussion on the RFP dealing with the Harrison Leisure property down in Mount Airy. It's a discussion and possible decision also, correct? It is not just discussion.
It shouldn't say discussion. It's old school.
Okay, it is, you know, got it. It is Harrison Leisure property, RFP, okay. Request public hearing for community development block grants from Citizen Services, dealing with special projects feasibility study at the Carroll County Youth Services Bureau. They are doing so much work over there. Public comment on approving to renew Microsoft Office 365 and Exchange. Okay, and Mr. Campbell is doing that. Interesting. Then we got, okay,
That should
it
be-
is Mr. Ripper.
Ripper, unless
Okay.
Mr. Campbell now works for.
So Mr.
He's our new CIO. I didn't realize. That's
So Mr. Ripper will be doing that.
Wait, what?
I think it'd be news to both of them.
Roberta, you're testing me on this, aren't you? You're like, okay. Then we'll go through agendas, nothing on Friday, October 1st, nothing on Saturday, and then October 3rd, Commissioner Boucher has the podcast. The following week, we have nothing on October 4th scheduled. Commissioner Lance will be participating in the Shock Trauma Board of Visitors. Yep, and that's virtual. There'll be a ribbon cutting where we all will be attending the Hampstead Wastewater Treatment Plant that morning at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. At Wednesday is the 4th annual alcohol retailer training seminar that Commissioner Wance will be attending.
I think you're just giving opening remarks.
You giving remarks? Helps a lot.
I mean, you can stay, but
Thanks, I appreciate that.
the request was for opening. remarks.
You're
I
allowed.
can do what you
understand. I'm probably going to stay because I usually get my certificate.
Good to be certifiable. Oh, wait.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Certified or
Wait,
certifiable?
wait, what? What? Hold on.
Okay.
Wait, what?
On Thursday, October 7th, until rudely interrupted, we have
I didn't do it.
Mako public comment. Is Mike participating?
They're
Yes,
coming.
so they come and
Okay.
to give
So,
an- and
Mr. Sanderson, the executive director of Mako, will be attending along with his team for an hour-long discussion on Mako.
It'll just be him and the press. Wilbur Levengood, Caroline County Commissioner. They do this every year. The president and the director
Right.
come and visit the counties, and I think we're one of the few that they haven't been to yet. So I think
Okay.
they're finally catching up to us. So
Cool.
it's they always
Their roadshow.
The president goes around
Right.
and visits everybody. So
I think it was a little wonky over the last 18 months because of COVID. but-
yeah, got changed up a little
The
bit.
technical term being wonky.
Yes.
Okay, then we're gonna have a discussion on chapter 51 sewer and water. Request approval to hire a contingent senior center floater position, excuse me, over at Citizen Services. Request approval to hire a contingent housing specialist over at Citizen Services. Apologize.
Are you getting choked up over this
I
agenda?
know, it's,
I mean, it's a
I
nice
got an
agenda.
Eagle
It's
Scout
a nice agenda, but I'm not getting choked up over it.
on Saturday. There's an Eagle Scout ceremony over in Hampstead. Are you attending that?
I'll be
Commissioner
there.
Weaver and I will be doing the podcast. Before we go into closed, is there any other discussion?
I mean, if you want me to get choked up over the agenda, I can get choked up. My youngest daughter's getting married on October the 2nd, so wonderful day. So that's good.
Mazel
If
tov.
anyone would like to donate to the Wance
Wedding
Wedding
fund.
Yeah.
Ceremony Fund, please feel free to reach out to me.
Here's a highlighter.
No electric slide or the chicken dance.
And please bring your noise meter to the wedding. We don't
I will do,
have-
yep, I got it. I got an app.
On Tuesday, I'm doing the Career Tech Construction Tour. Commissioner Frazier, are you going on that with me? this Tuesday coming?
I believe I am.
Great.
You're going with me, but I'm not going to be. It's a little different.
My district. Thanks for allowing me to go with.
Okay, we will, as
Let
I,
you go for a
as
while,
I
Justin.
shared, be going into closed once others stop talking, and then, we will have
Once again, it
our
wasn't me.
Board of Education joint meeting at 3:30. Say again?
Wasn't me.
It wasn't you.
I know. Thank
So
you.
So I need a motion to,
Motion to go into
Recess.
close for land acquisition.
okay, that thing.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Motion to recess after close until 3:30.
Second.
Nice. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Aye.
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 All right, got 5-0. Going in closed.